I've been struggling a little bit with the same old things coming up. I feel like that's probably the case for all of us. It's always the same old things that keep resurfacing for us. And obviously any normal person would think like, yeah, there's something for me to learn in that. But like for me, it's like I can never learn my lesson. Like I always just keep doing these things over and over again until the universe literally forces me into a rock bottom. Rewiring your brain and mastering your mindset is so exhausting and so repetitive and so painful and so stuck feeling. Like it just doesn't feel good at all. It feels good when we're planning it. It feels good when we're dreaming about it and how we're going to get to where we need to be. But the reality is that it's not as glamorous as what people make it out to be online. And I think obviously there's this whole movement of like romanticizing your life and I don't know, like kind of glamorizing certain things, and I understand the reasoning behind that, but I have felt very alone in this journey, even though I know that people go through it now because I've like sought out those connections with people and I've spoken to people about this kind of thing. But it's not obvious, like it's not something that is spoken about broadly or publicly, just how difficult it feels building your dream life and rewiring your brain. It's like you are trying to learn completely new and different things that you've never learned before, and you're trying to implement them into your daily life, and it messes with your nervous system. It messes with how you've perceived your life and the world up to now, and it just feels confusing. It feels like death. It feels like a death and obviously a rebirth after that, but it just feels uncomfortable. It feels very challenging, and I think sometimes the more you try, the more work you put in to your mindset and things like that, you can find yourself sometimes stuck in this cycle of like, oh my god, like I'm not actually getting better, like I'm not doing the very most. Or like you might find yourself in your weaker moments thinking like, oh, all of this work that I'm doing is in vain. Like it's just not seeming to get me anywhere. Like I don't feel like I'm making any kind of progress. And I just had to kind of sit back and reflect a little bit at the minute, because I've been through this before. I've felt this feeling before, and I had to just reflect on how I came out of that and how I realized that it's only in hindsight that when we look back, we will see how far we've come. Like we don't recognize our progress, we don't recognize our growth in the day-to-day, and that can be really difficult when you are trying to be so strong in your mindset and you are trying to do all of these things. You're waking up every single day and doing things that are so fucking challenging, so out of your comfort zone, and you're showing up every single day without a reward. It's so difficult. Like it's so mentally and physically exhausting and draining. If you don't have the right tools, if you don't know how to navigate this space, it can feel like you just want to give up. It can feel like you're done. And that's not what you want to be doing. You do not want to be giving up in this process. And I think if you knew that it was normal and you knew that people were going through it as well, you wouldn't feel this way. Like you would know that it's fine to keep pushing on. But I didn't necessarily know that, and I feel like I had to try and fail so many times to get to this point where I'm like, yeah, I'm actually doing the damn thing. Like I'm showing up every single day and I am working towards what I want for my life. But as I say, it came with its challenges and it came with a lot of mental warfare. This stemmed from a conversation that I had yesterday with my boyfriend. I was basically saying to him how I am so tired. I'm so tired of waking up every single day, getting up at 5 a.m, doing my workouts, doing my mindset work, doing everything that I need to do, ticking off all my habits on my habit tracker, doing everything, doing the most in order to get to where I want to be, but also not seeing any kind of results from that and just having blind faith that it's all going to work out. I just got so tired and I just felt so burnt out of doing that I just resorted back to my natural default of just doing nothing and just numbing my brain. And it does just get so exhausting. It gets so repetitive. And I was saying to him like how I felt fine, like I feel really happy, but then I also feel really sad and I feel really disappointed in myself and I feel like I'm not doing enough. And then it just made me think like, when is enough ever going to be enough? I know from myself, as someone who is highly sensitive and very self-aware, and also wants to build an amazing and big life for myself. I know that I hold myself to such a high standard that it's easy to beat myself up about things that I do wrong, and it's easy to kind of degrade myself and belittle myself a little bit when I'm not working my absolute best and I'm falling short of perfection. When I'm logically thinking about that, it's just so fucking crazy. Like, I am a human being. We are human beings and we are allowed to mess up. We are allowed to not be perfect. I think in the self-development world, it can be so easy to watch self-development content and just think that that's how people are all the time. Just think that people are always motivated all the time. And it's not the case. It's genuinely not the case. I know for a fact, like, if you watch any of my videos where I'm like giving like tips on how to get out of a slump or anything like that, any of my more like upbeat kind of videos, you will see that I am so confident. I am talking with so much conviction and I feel really good when I'm saying it all, and I'm really upbeat. And that's because that's when I'm in a good mood. That's when I'm feeling on top of the world, and everyone goes through this. Everyone has those moods where they're feeling amazing, they're feeling so motivated and excited and ready to take on their goals. But then we also have periods of our life where we just don't feel that motivation. We don't feel anything, quite frankly. We just feel indifferent. We feel uninspired. We feel like everything is just such a daily slog, like we're doing the same things all the time and we're not seeing results. Nobody tells you really like that. Like, people tell you that it's going to be difficult, and people tell you like you've got to put in the hard work, like you've got to be willing to sacrifice and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think people talk about what it feels like in that moment, and like how deflating it can feel and how repetitive and just boring it can feel. The thing about me as well is that I want to do everything. I literally always feel like I'm rushing. I always feel like I'm falling behind. I always feel like I'm playing catch up to where I feel like I should be at this moment in time, to the point where I'm just manifesting anxiety within my body. Like, I'm stressing myself out so much. I'm holding myself to such high standards and being so mean to myself if I fall off or if I fall short of those standards. And when you exert your limited energy into beating yourself up and telling yourself that you're not good enough and telling yourself that you're bad because you just want to decompress and go on TikTok, or you want to eat something sweet, or you want to, I don't know, blow off some steam and party with your friends. Like, if you're beating yourself up about that, you are only widening the gap between you and the life that you want, because you're just exerting so much energy into such a low vibrational action of telling yourself that you're not good enough, when quite simply it's not true. Like, if you spoke to anybody else, they would give you that perspective of like, no, you're doing amazing. Like, you're doing so good. You're doing the best that you can do at this given moment. The fact that you're even watching this video, the fact that you even are on this side of the internet, shows me that you care about your future, and shows me that no matter how many times you fail, you always get back up. You always have that within you that makes you wanna continue and makes you want to keep being better, and that's an amazing thing. And I don't think that people really emphasize enough. I don't know about me, like, I feel like I need everything emphasized. I need everything to be crystal clear. It might be implied by other people, but I just feel like people just seem like they've got their shit together. People seem like they've got everything figured out, even if they don't. And like, people talk about their hardships and the things that they go through, but they talk about it afterwards. And that doesn't help me necessarily. That just makes me think like, oh, like, they managed to get out of it, but how do I know that I'm going to get out of this feeling state of my life? Like, I don't know if I'm going to get out of it. I just feel like I'm constantly going to feel uninspired. So I don't know. I feel like maybe me talking about these things like while I'm kind of in it is a little bit helpful, because you know what it actually feels like being in it, and like, you know that there's someone there by your side going through it too. And I'm not afraid to share the more vulnerable sides of me. I'm not afraid to share my weaknesses if it means that it would make someone else feel a little bit better, or it would mean that someone feels less alone in this world. Because the nights that I have spent feeling so alone, feeling like I'm just so sensitive and I'm so delicate and like everything makes me emotional, everything makes me feel a certain kind of way, everything makes me feel like I just don't want to carry on, when really like so many people are feeling that. So many people feel this way and they just don't get on camera and share it with the world, quite understandably. Like I do get that, and there is a part of me that thinks like, oh my god, like I'm oversharing. But then I also think like, I don't know, I think we need more conversations like this. And I think it's good for us to be having these conversations before they get to the point of us literally losing the will to live, like the point where we literally cannot even cope. I think I'm not in that space right now, and I feel like I can maybe, I don't know, be a bit more rational about it, I guess, and kind of give my tips on how I get through these stages of my life. But yeah, rewiring your brain and becoming a completely different person is fucking hard. And when I say it out loud, it makes sense. That sounds so intense, like rewiring your brain, taking action steps in order for you to think a different way than you've always thought your whole life. That's a big thing. And I think people just do it so often, like everyone seems to be doing that, like rewiring their brain, that we think it should be easy, and we think that we just follow like the tips that people give online and that's that. But like, where's the emotional support? Where is that like, I've got you? Where is that, I'm here with you, I'm holding your hand, we're going through this together? Like, I don't see that online. I just see people talking about it when they've got out the other side, which is also great. Like, everything serves a purpose. Maybe it's just my like codependency. I don't know. I don't know whether I just need somebody to like hold my hand sometimes. I think that could be a result of being hyper independent as well. I think sometimes we kind of cave in to our inner child who feels so vulnerable and so scared and just wants to be held and wants to be comforted and felt like they're listened to and understood. Even though I'm going through this right now, and even though I'm experiencing a little bit of self-doubt, a little bit of limiting beliefs or whatever, I know that it's going to be fine. Like, I know that there's going to be a good day. There's going to be a day where I feel so much better and I feel so much more energized and excited and blah, blah, blah. I know that's going to come. But the only thing that I can do in these moments where I feel like shit and I feel like nothing's going to change is to just persist and to just keep going, even though it feels hard. And I say this in like all my videos, but just sticking to my baseline routines that I have for myself, just doing the bare minimum of what I need to do in order to feel like I am getting 1% closer, or not feel like, in order to know that I am getting 1% closer to where I want to be. That's all I can do in these times. Because at the end of the day, you could give up. You could give up right now. You could give in to all of these feelings that you're having that you're not good enough, and you could let that be your story. You could let that dictate your life, and you could just carry on doing what you were doing before you started on this journey. You can do that, that's an option. But you know that you're always going to have that call in your heart to come back to this and to become the best version of yourself. And this is always the journey that you have to go through. It's a bit rocky, it's a bit difficult. There are literally so many obstacles in the way, but you've just got to keep pushing. You've just got to keep going through it. Someone actually left a comment on my video, on my last video, and it was so beautiful. And it was saying like how I feel like I'm so bad at reciting other people's stories, but basically saying how it was like a son and a dad, and they were approaching this forest, and there was loads of like trees intertwined and loads of obstacles in the path, and it was dark and it was scary, and the son's like, how are we going to get through this? And the dad's like, just one step at a time. And then bit by bit they get through it, and then they get out the other side and it's amazing. And then they come across an even bigger, scarier, darker forest with like loads of different trees and things like that. And then the dad asks, how are we going to get through it? And the son says, just one step at a time. Something like that. I've probably butchered it. I feel like when that comment was left, it felt very impactful when I read it. So if you want to see it, go to my last video. But it really just made me think like, yeah, like, what fucking choice do we have? Like, we don't have a choice. If you want to get out of the other side of this forest, you have to just keep pushing through. You have to just do what you can do and just take it one step at a time and just tackle one obstacle at a time. I know it can feel like you're always putting out so many fires in your life, like you feel like everything's going wrong, you feel like you need to put the world to rights and do everything all at once, but you can only deal with what you can deal with. And I think sometimes we just take on so much for no reason. Something that has really hindered me. I felt the need to be so hyper independent, and I felt the need to do everything myself. Like if I was ever going through something, I felt like I just needed to show myself that I could get myself through it by myself. And it did serve me. Like I did get through things by myself, but it doesn't mean that that was the most effective way. Like just because I could do it doesn't mean that I had to do that. I could have leaned on other people, and I could have got support from other people. I could have asked other people for help, for them to just take the weight off a little bit. That is what interpersonal relationships are for. That is what people in this world want to do for you. That's what they want to do for people they love. Not feeling like you have to do everything all by yourself, and not feeling like you have to hold the weight of all of your problems all the time, because you don't. I know for me, I was very against like seeking advice from anyone, and like I don't really generally like to ask for advice from people, because I feel like people just tell me things that I already know, and it's annoying. But I think sometimes if we just like stop being so guarded and closed off to people's advice, and we just listen to it, even if it's something that we've heard before and something that we already know, I think sometimes the universe is kind of like channeling reminders through other people when they tell you something for you to actually listen to and acknowledge, rather than brushing it off and thinking like, I already know that, like that's something that I learned in a self-development book like 5 years ago. It might be something that you already know, but it might be exactly what you want to hear. And I think this with content on the internet as well, like when I come across content, a lot of it I've already heard before. Like a lot of the tips, in fact most of the tips I've already heard before. I've read so many self-development books, it's all in there. But sometimes you just need that reminder. Sometimes you need somebody external to you, outside of your head, who isn't being ambushed by all of these feelings and emotions that you've got in your head right now, and they can give you a little bit of perspective and a little bit of insight into how you can get out of this situation. I don't think we need to completely depend on ourselves constantly, because it's not healthy. We need to have that balance. The last thing I just want to say in this video is just to remind yourself that you are doing fine. You are doing absolutely amazing. And yes, we need to have accountability. If we want to get to where we need to be doing things to get us to that point. That's all true. But I think you can do that still by having that baseline routine, by just showing up for yourself in whatever capacity you can every single day, even if that's not that much at all, and even if it doesn't meet your standards. I think just knowing that you are making some kind of positive change in your life every single day is gonna put time on your side. It's gonna make time your best friend when you are spending your time, even if it's a little bit of your time, doing something positive and doing something that is working towards where you want to be. We're all in the same boat. We're all tired. We're all exhausted. We're all making the same mistakes over and over again. But if we want to get to the other side, we've just got to thug it out. We've just got to persist and keep going and just take one step at a time. And before you know it, you will be on the other side of it. I can guarantee that. There has just been so many examples in my life of when I've done that, and it's not until I actually sit back and I reflect on those things that I actually think, wow, I have come so far. And I'm sure it's probably the same for you guys as well. So yeah, that was my little daily ramblings for today, just what's been on my mind. I probably didn't address everything that I wanted to speak about, but that's just the nature of my brain, I'm afraid. Like I just forget. I forget things so much. My brain really just like saves space wherever it can. Like my brain must just be like deleting things. You know when you've got like too many photos on your phone and you need to like delete some so you can take more pictures? My brain's doing that probably. Like it's just deleting things from my memory in order to function. I love you guys so much. I hope you all are doing amazing, and I will speak to you next week. Bye!